Before the paintbrush even touches the paper, we've already made one very important decision. We've picked our subject. A lot of times in workshops or through teaching online, students will send me something that they're interested in painting. In some cases, they unknowingly have picked a really difficult subject to paint. So I want you to ask yourself a question while you watch this video today. Am I picking subjects that are too hard? The thing about watercolor is we are painting from light to dark. The lightest light that we have is the white of the paper. So we almost have to think in reverse to artists in other mediums. We have to think from light to dark, preserving the light from the beginning all the way through to the end of the scene. Try to avoid subjects with a lot of positive and negative shapes, a lot of lights and darks all intermingled together. A positive shape is something that you paint on directly with your brush. A negative shape is where you paint around that shape to define it. When we have subjects that have an extreme blend of positive and negative shapes, light and dark areas combined, it makes for a difficult subject to paint. It's not to say that you can never paint scenes like that, but especially if you are just starting out or if you're not familiar with the technique as far as masking fluid or, using another medium like gouache or something to get those highlights back, you're going to find yourself in a difficult situation by continually trying to paint around all the little light areas of the scene. The next thing I want you to think about is to really be honest with yourself. I know we always want to push ourselves and keep painting more things that excite us and more challenging subjects. It's not saying that you can't try a difficult subject. If you are going to take on something new, do a little prep work before you just jump in and try to paint that scene. If you want to paint a vibrant sunset, but you've never done that before, do a little bit of practice beforehand. Use some scrap paper, do some color mixing practices to make sure that you understand how colors are going to mix on the paper and what colors you need to mix together to achieve the effect that you're trying to achieve. So be honest with yourself about what is difficult for you. And sometimes you might take reference photos or come across things that you're like, I'm not ready to paint this yet. I'm going to hold on to this and paint this further down the road when I've developed my skills more. One of the best things that we can do when we are picking a subject to paint is to crop our photos. A good example of this recently was I was able to visit Seoul, Korea, and Tokyo, Japan. And as you can imagine, the density in these places is just unbelievable. To find something that's paintable, I really had to look around and be selective and do some cropping on my photos. When you see a busy street scene, maybe there's a little interesting area of that scene that you can crop into and find that painting. Take a lot of reference photos, but before you start to paint them, zoom in and crop around, play with your composition, and simplify these reference photos before you take them on. Find those special little areas within your scenes that can simplify what you're going to paint, but also has a nice feel for the subject matter that you're looking at. Avoid subjects that are completely flat. When I say flat, there's no dynamic light in them. It's not to say you can never paint a dull gray scene. When I was on this trip to Asia, most of the days that I was there were gray. When there's not light in the scene, it really flattens down the values in the scene. There's not a lot of contrast. I like painting light, not only because I like the feeling and the glow of light in scenes, but also when there is light, there are shadows, and shadows are a great unifier in the scene. They create a nice connecting shape into the scene. They ground things to the ground. So when you don't have light and you don't have shadows, it makes for a more difficult subject. Try to take reference photos, try to paint scenes that have some light effect that aren't completely flat. Of course, this will depend on the subjects that you like to paint and in your painting style, but this has been an important one for me. So all that being said, don't be afraid to reach and paint things that are difficult, but crop, do the prep work, and be mindful of some of the issues with positive and negative shapes and flat lighting. If you can keep these things in mind, you will pick subjects that are easier to paint and that lend themselves more to watercolor. Next week, I'm continuing my beginner watercolor series. I'm going to go over popular watercolor terms and explain what they mean and talk about how I use these different techniques within my paintings. So if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, press that bell notification. I post a new video every single Monday. You're not going to want to miss any one of these. And as always, if you're looking for a resource to help you out right now, take a look at this. Have you ever been really excited about a painting and you get all set up, you find that right reference that you're excited about, and then it's time to go and you feel lost? I have a free resource that I want to give to you today that can help with these problems. My 5 steps to plan a successful watercolor painting. I walk you through the crucial planning phase of your painting that will help you understand what you're going to paint first, second, and third. The planning is really so important, especially in watercolor. This medium is harder to correct. It's so immediate. So having that plan is very important. I send you a PDF that you can download. And the great thing about this is you can have it on your phone. You could print it out. You can download this right now before you start your next painting. All you have to do is follow this link here and download my 5-step guide to planning a successful watercolor painting.